guys, Becky here with Design Bundles, and I'm super excited to have you join me today because we have a really awesome tutorial. We are cutting fabric with your Explore Air tool, no rotary blade required, and we're making a cute no-sew applique design. All right guys, so let me go ahead and give you the rundown of what we have here. This is our fabric, and this is the star of our show. It is called Terra Magic. It is a fabric stabilizer. Now, I've used Terra Magic for a long time, and I really like it. It stiffens up the fabric at the fiber level. Does that make any sense? At the thread level. And that helps us to get a really good cut. Now, I've heard that you can also use starch, that you can starch your fabric and achieve similar results. But, you know, this is just what I use. So I actually buy it by the gallon. So I usually rebottle it in pieces when I'm ready to use. So this is what you'll see me spraying it with, but this is usually the bottle that you will look for. I think it's sold on Amazon. It's sold a lot in sewing stores. Okay, so you may not find it in your general stores like Joann's or Michael's or Hobby Lobby, but sometimes your sewing and fabric stores will have that. And then we're also going to pair it up with some heat and bond, which is where when you're here referred to as bonded or unbonded fabric, this is the product, maybe not this exact brand. There are several different brands that achieve similar results, but this is the Heat and Bond Ultra Hold, and applying this to your fabric is where we start talking about bonded fabric. That'll be important when we start talking about what tools to use to cut your fabric. But we also have some heat transfer vinyl. This is glitter heat transfer vinyl because it's thicker. And this is what we're gonna use to seal the edges of our design. And then we have a tote bag, which is just the basis of the design of the project that we're using today. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and spray my fabric. And I really want this to be sprayed, I want it to be saturated. That's why I have the piece of butcher paper underneath. Now, a lot of times I will do this in my sink or on a piece of plastic just to make sure, but you want it to be saturated enough that it's gonna do its job. So a lot of times I'll give the front a good spray, and then I'll turn around and spray the back too. Now, I'm using a pretty large area here for my fabric, but just know that you really only need to apply this. You can cut down the size of the fabric that you're gonna use and apply it to that. You don't necessarily have to saturate your entire piece of fabric, but I have more than one project in mind, so I'm gonna go ahead and take care of mine, and then I'll be able to store the rest of the fabric for my other project. Okay, so how do you know when you have enough Terra Magic applied? Well, I really like that for, it seems like the most of the fabric that I use, once I turn it over to spray the back, you can really start to see the design of the fabric come through. So that's a big indicator for me. I don't want this to be dripping wet, but you do want to be able to feel that it's nice and damp. Okay, it's okay to give it a squeeze, make sure that it's saturated in all parts. It's kind of like a paper towel. Once you get a little bit of it wet, you can kind of transfer it over to other areas. I hope that makes sense. But now I'm just going to lay this out to dry. If you get impatient, you can actually throw this in your home dryer or use a blow dryer. But you can also just lay it over really just a safe area where it's not going to be disturbed, but also the area that you're using will not be affected by the Terra Magic, because it does, I don't want to say it's sticky, but like I'll have to go wash my hands after handling the fabric just because it does leave a little bit of a residue, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and dry it, and then I will come back and show you how to apply the heat and bond and also how to cut this with your machine. Okay guys, so here we are in Cricut Design Space. Now this is a follow-up video in case you're unfamiliar with working with no-sew applique designs. This is a design that we created in our first video to show you how it's done. But now we're going to go ahead and proceed to cut. So let's take this design and click over to make it. And it's going to break it out into two different cutting mats, one for the black and one for the red. Now the black, we're actually going to cut this out of our glitter heat transfer vinyl. It's actually going to be silver because we're using a navy tote bag, and I need to mirror that. All right, so as far as I'm concerned, that is all we need to do. Over on our heart is where it's going to be a little bit different. you can still leave the material size, but we are not going to mirror this. This is going to be our fabric. All right, so we're going to mirror the heat transfer vinyl, and we do not mirror the fabric. In this case, it probably wouldn't matter because our heart is symmetrical, but it's just important to remember because there will be a point in time when you do a design that is not symmetrical, and you will have to remember, do not mirror the fabric. All right, so let's go ahead and click continue. Now, once you make sure that your design is plugged in and hooked up, I'm cutting with my Explore Air 2 today. And it's going to go ahead and connect via Bluetooth. And then I will set my base material. And I am going to select, I'm going to go to Browse All Materials. And let's look at our fabric options. I'm going to choose canvas, okay, because it is a thicker type of material. And I have similar settings that I use for the silhouette. You can do this on either one. And this does not require a rotary blade. Okay, now that's very important, and that's why I'm showing you guys using the Explore Air 2, because I know cutting fabric is not new for the folks that are already using the rotary blade with their maker, but using the two products, or at least two similar products to what we're going to show you today, you can cut fabric with just a regular fine point blade. So I'm going to leave the pressure at default, and then what I'll do is I will head on over and I'm going to show you guys how we treated the fabric and also how it cuts on your machine. Before I forget, it's important to go ahead and say that, you know, we're talking about the fabric over here, but don't forget that your fabric and your heat transfer vinyl are going to be cut on two different settings. So if you want to cut the heat transfer vinyl first, that's fine. Go ahead and make sure you select your vinyl plus, all right? Your iron-on plus, that's what I'm trying to go on. You can also select your glitter iron-on here, all right, whatever works for you. But cut that with your glitter iron-on settings and then change the settings whenever it's time to cut your fabric. All right, so I don't want to confuse anybody. I know I started off talking about the fabric, but that's because most of you guys are going to be familiar with cutting glitter iron-on already. And cutting the fabric is what's going to be the new part for you. So make sure you cut your glitter heat transfer vinyl like regular, and then use those canvas settings when it's time to cut your fabric. All right, guys, so let me show you what we're working with. We have our Explore Air 2. I have a cutting mat. Now, despite what you see here, that I'm using my blue cutting mat, which is actually a light grip mat, you want to use the strongest grip mat that you have, okay? Now, this just happens to be the strongest grip mat that I have because I have just worn my other one slap out. But this is a new, relatively new light hold mat, so that's what I'm going to use. This is our fabric, our treated fabric. And then this is Heat and Bond Ultra. All right, and you have a textured side and you have a paper side. And I went ahead and checked on the cutting mat in Cricut Design Space, and we need an area that is going to be roughly 7 by 7. So let's just check and see what we have here, because you can use your grid to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this piece. Now you can buy the Heat and Bond pretty inexpensively by the package, which comes with a decent amount, or you can buy it by the roll if it's something that you use a lot. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a Cricut heating pad, go ahead and turn our fabric upside down, okay, pattern side down. And we're going to take this little piece of Heat and Bond that we have, we're going to put it textured side down against the back of the fabric. Now get it as close to the edge as you can without going over, because what this is going to do is it's going to heat up the adhesive on the other side, and any part that is hanging over the fabric, you can get adhesive on the underside of your mat, okay, or on the top of your mat. So sometimes too, what I'll do is I'll put like some butcher paper or something underneath. It's completely up to you. You can also do this with an iron. I'm going to go ahead and use my Easy Press, and I'm just going to start in one corner and just kind of work my way up like I would an iron. And this is also going to help us because it's going to pre-press our fabric. So just think of that part like you would an iron. And then just to make things easier, I prefer to go ahead and trim my fabric. Now I can save the rest of this fabric if I want. If there's any small pieces, you know, we're all kind of hoarders at this point, okay? But it's just up to you. So now I have my fabric, and you can see it's nice and stiff. And let me go ahead and show you that too. I did not emphasize that enough. Once this is dry, this is really, really stiff. Okay, it's no longer the pliable fabric that you're used to. Now, what's really good about this is that once you wash it, the stiffness is going to come out. All right, so that's where the heat and bond comes into play. It's going to fuse it with your fabric and it's going to keep it in place. But for cutting purposes, this really stiffens it at like a thread level. All right, so that you get the best cutting results that you can get. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fabric and I'm going to do it fabric pattern side up. Remember, we did not mirror our design, okay, and that's why. I'm gonna go ahead and line it up. Now, if you don't have a super sticky mat, that's okay. You can actually, as long as you're not doing a super detailed design, which like we said, doesn't cut well anyway, but you can secure the edges with some painter's tape or some masking tape if you want to. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and feed this in. Now, remember, I'm cutting on that canvas setting. Now, there is a setting here for bonded fabric. Because I don't use my dial a whole lot, I did not test that out, but the canvas should work really good. Okay, then of course, make sure that you remember that you can come in and see if you got a good cut. Do you see how good of a cut we got there? So I'm gonna go ahead and unload it. Now this might be something that I saved because it already has the heat and bond on it, but that other piece I might not. So let's go ahead and peel this off. And then we're gonna show you how to put this together. Let's get our Teflon sheet ready, but we can move this guy out of the way. Now I did cut and weed our glitter heat transfer vinyl, and I have our tote bag ready. Now one cool thing that I wanted to show you is that you can peel off the inside of this heart. And if you're, you know, kind of the ultimate hoarder like I am, I feel like there are lots of things that I can save this heart for, but you absolutely can. You can set this to the side and this would make a cute little accent on another project. But if you don't save it, that's okay too. Now you can do this a couple ways. First of all, you do need to absolutely remove the paper backing on your heat and bond. Okay, and you should have this nice glossy finish. So if I can, I'm gonna try to go ahead and line it up like this and make sure that it's nice and centered with my heat transfer vinyl and then press it into place. Okay, now that's not gonna be a perfect stick. It doesn't really like to stick very well, but it should stick enough for you to see how I have my hand underneath it here. I'm gonna go ahead and try to position my heat transfer vinyl. And then once I put it down, as long as it's straight. If it's not straight, I'll need to straighten it out. Okay, but sometimes too, especially when you're working with multiple pieces, what you can do is get some tweezers and you can peel this back and slide your fabric inside. But for a beginner project, having this one piece design is really great. All right, so it's in place, it's centered, or at least relatively centered, and I'm gonna cover with my Teflon sheet and I'm gonna press this just like I would regular heat transfer vinyl. Now this is just using my easy press, so I am at 320 degrees for 15 to 20 seconds, and you'll see me press a couple times because this does not cover my entire design. So if you're using a regular heat press and it covers your whole design, then just one press will be necessary. All right, once that's done, go ahead and peel back your carrier sheet. Now, not all glitter is a hot peel like this, so if you start peeling it back and it doesn't stay in place, then just let it cool. But for our project, we are completely done. So this is really, really cool. I really like this project a lot. And just to kind of, give you a little teaser, this is another project that we did using the same fabric and the same heat transfer vinyl, but we used a cute little paw print for this one. So I really like that this is now double-sided and it's a ready-to-use tote bag. So guys, how did you feel about our fabric project? Well, obviously, I think it came out really, really cute. And these fabric projects are so easy when you're using the Tiro Magic and the Heat and Bond. So now, like I said, there are probably some other substitutes that you can use, but this is the tried and true method for me. Hopefully you guys enjoy it too. So I'm going to wrap it up for today, guys. But remember, if you have any questions or comments, definitely feel free to leave those below. I do love to hear from you. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. That way we can keep bringing you these really awesome tutorials for your Cricut. So again, I'm going to wrap it up. But thanks again, guys. We'll see you next time.